Hi, I'm Andy with EcoCha, and here we are with batch number 42 of the EcoCha Tea Club. And this month's batch is a charcoal roasted high altitude oolong tea. We use the term high altitude to slightly differentiate from High Mountain tea, the more generic term, because it is used in the Chinese here in Taiwan to differentiate tea that's I believe grown over 2,000 meters, and this farm is over 2,000 meters in the Cui Feng tea growing region on Mount Hehuan or Hehuan Shan in central Taiwan, Nantou County, the northern side of Nantou County. Cui Feng is a region that produces a lot of High Mountain Oolong in the fashion of lightly oxidized unroasted tea. Let's see, I'm going to use a 130 milliliter pot, so I'm going to go with about 7 grams here. There we go. As a charcoal roasted tea, I think you can use slightly less than the norm. We generally, as a rule of thumb, recommend a 1:15 ratio of dried tea leaves to water. So for example, if it were a 150 milliliter pot, we would use 10 grams. We're going to go with 7 grams in a 130 milliliter pot and brew it in the basic Gong Fu style. Our friend here in Jushan, where I live, is the southern side of Nantou County, has had a business where he's working with farmers of different regions to consult with them about farming methods and also processing methods, and the end result being that he procures full days of harvest from them, given that they follow his requests or his consulting demands in terms of how the tea is produced. So he told me that he has been working with this farmer for many years, buying from him regularly on a seasonal basis, and this batch was made in preparation to be roasted, so it's more significantly oxidized. I remember him telling me that he only charcoal roasted it once, but I think his individual methods are that he goes for a long, extensive roast, possibly up to 30 hours, or at least over 20 hours in one singular roast. So he probably prepped the tea by roasting it in a conventional tea roasting oven at least once, if not up to 3 times. I really honestly don't remember exactly what he told me about the prep, but I do remember that he roasted it once extensively with his charcoal roaster. He's been doing charcoal roasting for 20 years or more. It turns out that this batch is the last batch of tea that Mr. Zhuang will ever roast. He suddenly passed away, and so it is a particularly poignant batch of tea that we're sharing this month. Mr. Zhuang has very openly shared his extensive knowledge and also his extensive connections in the tea industry that he developed for the last 30 years. The last conversation I had with him over this tea, he was talking about how he was going to build a black tea factory and basically substantially innovate on the processing methods used here in Taiwan for black tea production. He was a very progressive guy here in the industry, and I learned a lot from him, and I will dearly miss him. Back to this tea, it's high elevation. It's more than high elevation. It's over 2,000 meters, which is probably the top, I'd say overall in terms of High Mountain Oolong tea produced, it's within the top 15% in terms of quantity, going from starting, the basic credential for High Mountain tea in Taiwan starts at 1,000 meters. In order to qualify as High Mountain tea, it has to be over 1,000 meters. The amount of tea produced at over 2,000 meters is a small portion of that. So it goes for a high price, and it's it's relatively rare to find a batch that is prepared to be roasted to this extent. Very strong roast quality in the first brew, but the sharp kind of charcoal roasty flavor is balanced by this very thick brew. It's very substantial, smooth on the palate with this overtone of smokiness. A pretty intense brew, even with this fairly minimal amount of leaves. They're barely, I'm going about 2/3 full now that they're opened up in the teapot. It's really substantial, very strong, hearty, bold flavor profile. The thing that captured me when I first tasted this tea was the balance of this strong roasted character with the rich, smooth texture of the tea. The aftertaste is clean, dry on the palate, nice. It's a very satisfying brew if you're into this kind of smoky, charcoal flavored style of tea making. This tea was harvested last fall, probably around August, and I believe it was roasted sometime around Chinese New Year, so January or February. So I think some settling and some aging will do it really nicely. You can see the viscosity in the appearance of the brewed tea. It's kind of oily, bright, reflective kind of appearance to it. There's a lot of substance to it, and I think the charcoal roasting even brought that substance into a more concentrated kind of composition. Okay, even just with the third brew here, I'm getting a lot more sweetness coming out, a lot more complexity. The smokiness is gone, but you can go for a long time with this tea. I think it's going to be hard for you to exhaust it, really, in terms of it'll continue producing some substantial flavor profile for, I'm willing to say, 10 brews. It's very thick. It's a lot of substance in these high elevation grown leaves. And that's the quality side of this batch of tea. Is it's not, most charcoal roasted tea is between, I would say between, well, starting at 500 meters elevation going up to 1500 meters. There's not a lot of people taking high elevation tea, high altitude tea, and processing it in preparation for substantial roasting like this. And that's why I chose it for the tea club this month. I think you're going to like it. Go light to start with. You could even I'm going to say at least a 1:20 or a 1:25 ratio of leaves to water. So there you have it. Charcoal roasted high altitude oolong tea from Cui Feng, fall 2018, roasted by a local master who will live on in our minds, and we won't forget what he's taught us. Thanks for being with us, and we'll see you next month.